We're at the end of day one at World of Learning, and I'm with Charles Jennings, who's just been talking about transforming L&D through effective learning governance. Charles, can you just tell us exactly what learning governance is?
It's a rather difficult title, that, isn't it? Yeah, learning governance is about making sure that you have in place the systems and processes that allow you to make decisions, to drive accountability, to prioritize what you do effectively and efficiently. And I was really talking about it from the context of making sure that stakeholders drive learning governance in an organization, and through having stakeholders drive it, you actually ensure that learning strategy and the way that learning operations run link back into the way the organization's strategy is designed, and you basically pull those together. So I think learning governance is really important. What surprised me was that 2.5, 3 years ago, I analysed some data from the CIPD annual survey, which showed that around about 52% of organisations didn't have a written learning strategy, and therefore if they haven't got a written learning strategy, it's unlikely that they're going to have any sort of governance structure. And in running a poll today, that figure was roughly about the same. So I think that that's a crucial element. The other thing question I asked was how many organisations had learning governance councils or learning governance boards, and around about a quarter had that. And again, I think that really that's making a rod for their own back, those organisations that don't have that, because if you've got a well-constituted learning governance board that's peopled with senior managers who are stakeholders, as well as senior learning and development HR people, it allows you to move nimbly, it allows you to move at the speed of business, it allows you to do a whole pile of stuff quite quickly without having to go through tortuous engagement processes and so on down through the organisation. It also gives a really good backstop for L&D people, because if you've got a learning governance board and that governance board is signed up to some change that you're making in the way that you deliver learning and development, or the way you design your support for learning in the organisation, I should say, it makes life a whole lot easier, because when you have that middle manager who says, I'm not going to do that, you've got the backing of his or her senior manager, because the governance board has made the decision. So it's really an effective decision-making process to get stuff done, in simple words.
Now, half the audience today still kind of maintaining that they don't have a written learning strategy. For those that left this session today and they want to go back to, they're going back to their organisations and they want to sell the idea of a learning governance board or council, how are they going to do that?
Well, I wouldn't overcomplicate it. My advice would be don't overcomplicate it, because your learning strategy needs to simply lay out, it's a simple written document that explains where you are, where you want to be, and how you're going to get there. That's all it is. In fact, I once presented a learning strategy that was about 36 pages, and the HR director said, bring it back to me on 6 PowerPoint slides with no more than 4 bullet points in each PowerPoint slide, and I'll sign it off. And he did. So it doesn't need to be terribly complex. And the same with a governance board. I spoke today a little bit about constituting a governance board. Again, it doesn't need to be complex. It needs to have the right people. It needs to have a simple set of terms of reference, a scope in terms of what their accountabilities and responsibilities are, and just get on with it and do it, knowing that it's going to change and it'll remold itself as you go along. But it's not really a very complex thing to do. It's simply that a lot of L&D departments are tied up with a lot of busy work, and they don't really have the opportunity or take the opportunity to step back and think about what would make their lives easier and what would make everything work a lot better. And as I say, it's a reasonably straightforward process. It's just getting it right.
Great. Charles Jennings, thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Martin.